a call. It's a call to intimacy. It's a call to intimacy. I know that you have a secret place, but you have to turn that secret place to a place of intimacy.
Ministers. Wait, did you get the question? Huh? The serious Christians that chop breakfast, is it that they don't hear God or they chose to follow their minds? Even ministers. You understand the question? Well, what does it mean to chop breakfast? Chop breakfast is a popular slang in Nigeria, among young people in particular, that refers to a breakup. Not a breakup. Is what? Heartbreak. So let's say heartbreak. It's basically when two people are in a relationship, and then one person comes and says, it's over. That person is said to have served breakfast to the other person to whom he says it is over. So this person is asking that serious Christians that chop breakfast, what is the problem? Is it that they don't hear God or they chose to follow their minds, even ministers? All right, so very quickly. The whole point of having a courtship is because there is a possibility that the relationship will not end up in marriage. That's why when there's a breakup in courtship, it's not a divorce. Okay? Courtship exists to help people to confirm their convictions. In part. So if you say, oh, I heard God. All right? That courtship period gives you a buffering season to see also if that conviction continues to deepen or not. And some people make it look as if when a relationship breaks, it's almost equivalent to a divorce of some sort, When a relationship breaks, it's a very, very, very serious issue, but it is not the same thing as divorce. And a relationship can break for a number of reasons. Sometimes, so to answer the question directly, the serious Christians that chop breakfast, it could be that they didn't hear God well before they got into the relationship. It could be that they heard God well before they went into the relationship. If two people heard God that they are supposed to get married and they start a courtship, and along the line, one of them says, I know God wanted us to get married, but you know what? I've changed my mind. I have other plans. All right? The person that they serve the breakfast is not wrong in that scenario. It is not because he did not hear God well that he was served breakfast or that she was served breakfast. It is because the other person has decided to go against what they know to be God's will for them. Then somebody will say, oh, but if God knows that the person is going to, the person is going to serve the breakfast, why did he allow the relationship in the first place? Well, it's the same reason for which God allowed Abraham to take Isaac to the Mount of Moriah and to offer him for a sacrifice, but later stopped Abraham from offering him and said, now I know that you will not withhold your son from me. Doesn't mean that before Abraham went there, God didn't know how it was going to play out. God knew. But God cannot write it into Abraham's account in his favor simply from the standpoint of knowledge, of his own knowledge. All right? It's as if God punished you because of sins he knows you will commit. All right? To say, well, you died at the age of 79, but that was because you committed suicide. If you did not commit that suicide, you would have lived to be 87. And in your 82nd year, You see, you would have committed this sin. So I'm punishing you because I know you would have committed it. Do you get the point? So you see how absurd it is. So sometimes you cannot say somebody disobeyed God in that relationship. The person has no opportunity to be responsible for anything that they have not done. And the you who was served the breakfast against, let's say, against what the other person actually even knows to be the will of God, you were the person that has obeyed God. So I normally tell people that so long as you bring obedience to the table, you do your best, you never need to worry about having missed the will of God. God cannot punish you for another person's decision. I know people think it's not so, but it is so. God will not punish you for another person's decision. Nobody goes to hell because Adam sinned. That's not why people go to hell. The Bible says all have sinned and have come short of the glory of God. We may have inherited sin as a nature from Adam, but people are punished in virtue of their own sin. It's not that Adam's sin that is the reason why anybody is going to go to hell. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Because even if you believe in the concept of original sin cannot be said to be synonymous with original guilt. So, I'm just saying, therefore, that it could be the case that God knows, not like could be the case, it is the case that God knows how every relationship is going to pan out. Those that will end in marriage, those that will not end in marriage. Even the one that he says, go in, and he knows it will not end in marriage. Because the other person at some point is going to change their mind. God knows they will change their mind before they change their mind. But that's the whole point of the life we are living. It's applicable to everything else in your life. God knows everything you will do before you do them. So should God stop you from the possibility of doing those things? If God did that, there will be no grounds for actually holding you responsible, and there will be no grounds for actually holding you to be virtuous. You cannot establish virtue or misbehavior without actually an opportunity to behave. You get it? Now, another reason could basically just be that the person didn't hear well. And if you didn't hear well, you can chop breakfast. But the final thing to say is that, so this person said, even ministers, yes, the best among men are still men at their very best. Is that okay? The best among men are still men at their very best. So all you need to do is to make sure that you take all the precautions and that you are very sincere in the way you prosecute this, and you prosecute it within the context of the Christian family and leadership that God has placed around your life, so that there can be a higher chance of safety as you navigate this marital thing. And then, do your best and trust that God will bring the best outcome for you. And to every brother or sister that is out there that thought they were in the will of God and you were served breakfast, I want you to know that God has your back. If you are with me, say amen. One of my fathers used to say, you don't know who God is trying to help. All right? You may be heartbroken now, but you do not know who God is trying to help. There are certain things that I normally don't like to say around these kinds of things. But of course, I don't even know whether to say I chop breakfast too. But I had a relationship that failed. And the relationship failed when the two families were already involved. My parents had gone to the family of the lady. So it was that established. We're not dating. It was courtship. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, we already even had a wedding date in view. So it was. So one of the questions that people kept asking was, so did he not hear God? Did he not hear God? Am I the only person in the matter? Even following Jesus, people have a choice. And they can wake up and say, it was good for as long as it lasted. But I'm not doing it again. All right. So it ended. And was heartbroken. Gave opportunity to exercise my tears. I sobbed from Makurdi to Jos. Once in a while, it is very good. Tears are not a bad thing. It detoxifies. It detoxifies your emotion. It helps to free your ducts and your... All right? It didn't happen in Makurdi, but it was on the last lap of the journey from Makurdi to Jos that it finally sank. I was in that 18-seater bus. I sat at the back. I sobbed at least for like 80% of that journey. Do you know how many hours of sobbing that is? It's good. Sometimes God purges your soul like that. So for everyone that has sobbed on account of breakfast that you were served, I understand. I understand. But I can say to you that God is faithful. He never forgets where he makes investments, no matter what people do to you. Is that okay? And even if you are the one that has wrongly served somebody breakfast, and maybe the person now has gone ahead to get married, and you are now in that place where you are beaten by a sense of guilt and a lack of confidence, I'd like you to know that with our God is plenteous mercies. Mercies in their plurality. God has more than a second chance that he gives to people. If God gave people only a second chance, none of us will have a chance with God anymore. I'm sure you have blown more than 2 chances since you started following Jesus, isn't it? Yes. So God is not just a God of second chance. To him that is joined to all the living, there is hope. That's how you explain the chances God gives to a person. Life is God's chance. So long as you still have a life, so long as you are alive, you still do have a chance with God. Any day God gives up on you, if your chances are out, you are out. So as long as you're alive, it doesn't matter how many times you blew it, and then you are feeling maybe I just lost it, all right, because of whatever, I lost God's will for my life. That didn't take God unawares also. God knew you were going to misbehave before you misbehaved. And if in sincerity you are going to come back to repent, God also knew that in advance. And so God has an arrangement to take care of all of those eventualities. So even if you're not the one who served the breakfast, but you were the one who served the breakfast, and you are now feeling you served in error, and maybe it's an error that can now no longer be amended, I want you to know that it does not mean you have written yourself out of the will of God. Because when the clay is marred in the hands of the potter can still make out of that same clay a pot as it seems fit and good in his sight. What the potter makes was not a punishment for the clay being marred in his hand. He made it as it seemed good in his sight. The operational word there is that the clay was marred in the hands of the potter. So long as you are still in his hands, to him that is joined to all the living,